Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى لا سيما المصطفى صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to another new edition of your program, Ask Huda. The phone numbers are as usual, beginning with area code 002-0238-555-248 or 249, and the email address is ask@huda.tv, and the Facebook account is msalahofficial at the Facebook, of course, .com. We had a few pending questions from yesterday. Then inshallah you can start ringing in and deliver your valuable questions. We'll do our best to answer them, inshallah. Fahim from Syria inquired about the qunut during the Fajr prayer, and we said the right view that is, if you were to do qunut, then it must be done in the 5 daily prayers, not only in the Fajr prayer. You do not single out the Fajr prayer with the qunut, which is making dua after rising up from ruku'. This is an opinion which is chosen by Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, but Al-Jumhur, the vast majority of the jurists, are of the view that the qunut is only during An-Nawazil, whenever there are calamities or disasters, or we are desperately in need, such as during the time of war, or whenever there is a Muslim ummah being oppressed somewhere, we can make qunut in the 5 daily prayers. But if the Imam is following a Shafi'i madhab and is doing the qunut in the Fajr only based on a hadith narrated by Anas, then in this case the followers should follow the Imam in the qunut and should not oppose him. I mean, it doesn't seem right for the Imam to be doing the qunut or the dua, and the ma'mumin or the followers are in a different area and are not following him. Okay. Muhammad from the KSA had a very interesting question about performing 2 rak'ahs of prayer with multiple intentions. This practice is known as tadakhul an-niyat. Tadakhul an-niyat. When you have more than one intention in the same deed. One intention, I mean they're all good intentions, but I mean that somebody is praying 4 rak'ahs. So you either determine whether it's a fard or nafl. You cannot say, well, this is for both, for the dhuhr and meanwhile for the 4 rak'ahs before dhuhr. No, this is an independent prayer and this is a separate prayer. Similarly, you cannot be praying a qada or a missed prayer and meanwhile praying a current prayer in the same prayer and say one for both. So when the prayer has a specific intention, then it must be singled out with the intention, or it will invalidate the prayer. But what we can say is there are some prayers where, for instance, you are entering the masjid. Each and every time you enter the masjid, you have to pray tahiyyatul masjid before you sit down, the greeting of the masjid. So if there is a current prayer, you enter after the adhan, and there is a sunnah, nafli prayer before the adhan. So by praying the nafli prayer or the emphatic sunnah before the dhuhr or before Fajr, for instance, that is sufficient. You don't have to pray another 2 rak'ahs for tahiyyatul masjid, because the purpose have been fulfilled, which is not to sit down without praying tahiyyat al-masjid. Al-istikhara, the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah, may Allah be pleased with him and his father, when he mentioned how to pray istikhara and how important is it to pray istikhara, he said, فَلْيَرْكَعْ رَكَعَتَيْنِ مِنْ دُونِ الْفَرِيضَةِ. Let him pray 2 nafl rak'ahs. So if the person is praying any nafl, whether it is a greeting of the masjid, duha, or night prayer, or emphatic or non-emphatic sunan, and his intention is to make also the dua of the istikhara by the end, that is valid as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Khadija from United Arab Emirates. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam, Sheikh. I have a question regarding zakat.
Yes.
I have a house, but it is not handed over to me, and originally I had intended to live in it.
No.
But now my intention has changed. Maybe I may want to sell it. I am due to pay zakat in Ramadan, which is soon. Do I now have to value the house and pay the zakat now, or do I pay it 1 year later, although the house is still not handed over to me yet?
Okay. Whenever you sell the house, you pay the zakah on 1 year. You pay the zakah once whenever you sell the house and cash the money. Okay? Barakallah fiki. Yusra from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, sister. I'm listening.
All right, thank you so much. I'm having the bleeding following the miscarriage, and it's been 3 weeks. And I've been doing my best to be keeping up with my fasting and my prayers. But wallahi, it is like seeming like not right to do this. Because
a couple of questions in order to be able to help you out. Okay.
Okay.
The normal period has certain number of days. This has been going on regularly with you, or always there is a confusion?
I understand the fatwa about after the miscarriage, after losing a baby, there's a bleeding.
No.
And that's what I've been having for 3 weeks. And I've gone ahead because of the fatwa saying you should continue with fasting and praying. I do the prayers after I wash for every prayer, and I do the prayers. But what I'm really having doubts that this is the right thing to do anymore, because it's so much blood.
It is not about the amount or the quantity. It is about whether you should be praying with this or not. It is not optional though. So when we say after the miscarriage, this is not similar to the postpartum bleeding, then this is a fatwa. So it is not what I feel good about it or if I don't feel comfortable about it. This is a fatwa, so you should pray and you should fast if you can afford praying and fasting, unless if it coincides your regular period. So during the time that you are seeing the bleeding or experiencing the bleeding, did you also have the regular period which you normally experience every month?
What I'm wondering, Sheikh, is who decided this? Is this something from Quran? Is this something Hadith, Sunnah, or is it something from Sharia?
Okay, I will explain to you, inshallah. Jazakillahu khairan. If you have any other questions, do you? Okay, Sister Yusra, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Name, please?
Your
name, please?
Amina.
Amina from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Amina. Go ahead, please.
I want to ask a question. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening, Sister Amina. For the sake of time, brothers and sisters, when you call in, you can just go ahead and deliver your question, please.
Okay. My brother got married to a sister from Britain, but he said the family never welcomed him to marry the girl. But they went ahead and married him again, and none of the family members went there. So the doubt of the marriage, he wants to know whether the marriage is valid or invalid.
Okay. طيب بارك الله فيك Sister Amina from Nigeria. Qasim from Iraq.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Brother Qasim?
Alhamdulillah, very good. How are you, Sheikh?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking.
Just 2 days, and I hope your Ramadan is also going very well.
Alhamdulillah wa shukrullah. Barakallah feek.
Yes, alhamdulillah. Sheikh, I have three questions.
Now,
One is, for example, if I'm fasting here, and I want to ask about the Laylatul Qadr for the 10 days. For example, if I'm staying in here, if I go back to my country, there is a 1 day difference in my country. If I'll be going back, for example, to Pakistan, and how I will search the Laylatul Qadr? It says search on the odd nights.
I got your question, Qasim. I got your question. I got it. Do you have any other questions? Okay, Jazakallah khair. This is a very important concern, and I believe answering this question will benefit a large number of viewers. So inshallah Azza Jalla will make sure to explain this in details. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Muhammad from Egypt.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Sheikh?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, Sheikh, I have a couple of questions.
Now,
I was told yesterday that the muswak, the chewing stick, is forbidden after Salat al-Asr. That's my first question.
according to the vast majority of the scholars, yes, and according to Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, you should not use the miswak after Asr, but the more right view that using the miswak throughout the day while fasting is permissible.
Okay, that's my first question.
Second,
my second question is, there's this game that is being played on NBC, and I guess it's a Saudi Arabian channel, which they ask you questions via text message and you answer them. So I don't know if that is permissible in Islam or is part of gambling too.
so if you ask the questions, you may win a prize, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have to pay in order to enter the competition?
No, you only have to, the only amount you're going to pay is for the text message.
Okay, but you're not
Yeah,
paying
they're going to charge you
anything
for the text
extra. You're paying just for the means of communication.
Yes, I guess so, because it's a hotline, so the cost for the text message is not like the usual text message.
My question is, Muhammad, my question is, when there is a poll or when there is a drawing, okay, if you have to pay in order to enter the drawing, and you may win, and you may lose, and in case you lose whatever you paid, then this is called maisir or gambling.
Okay.
But when there is a competition and drawing, somebody is distributing gifts on the winners, okay? And there is a sponsor. You answer the question right, you get a gift, and you don't have to pay anything. There is no risk whatsoever. Then this is a possible and a valid, legitimate competition, okay? Sometimes you have to write the answer and drop it in the mail, put it in an envelope and put a stamp, and you have to pay for it an insignificant amount and send it by mail. So they collect the right answer. They are not beneficiaries in a sense. They're not collecting money from you and from all the viewers in order to prosper and collect that money to buy a gift so that they give it to the winner. If they do so, if they collect money from the participants or the competitors, and from this money they buy the gift to give it to one person or make a profit or an interest out of that, then this is once again gambling. The typical form of gambling is when the competitors or whenever those who buy the lotto tickets end up paying, hoping that they will be lucky and their name will come out and they will win. They will win what? They will win the prize which every one of the competitors paid for it. Then this is playing gambling. But I don't think in the form of the competitions where you answer questions, I'm talking once again about these religious competitions where these guys have a committee for fatwa and a shari'i committee, legal committee. They recognize what's halal and what's haram, okay? And even the questions which they present are legitimate questions and so on. Entering polls or drawings with other channels, video clips, songs and music and movies and all of that, this is plain haram, whether it's gambling or not. But the picture that you described earlier, inshallah, is halal as long as it's only costing you the phone call or the message that you're sending. Any other questions? طيب. Abdul Mu'aid from the KSA. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Naam.
Sheikh, I have one question.
Please.
I believe you quoted one hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, I don't know the hadith, but the meaning is that whenever you pray these 12 rakats of Sunnah Muakkada, Allah will build a house for you in paradise.
No.
So how can we apply this hadith on Jummah? When Jummah prayer, we don't have these rakats, these Sunnah Muakkada.
No. Okay, number one, Abdul Ma'id, the hadith you mentioned is a sound hadith and is narrated by Salama, may Allah be pleased with her, and we quoted this hadith several times. And there are other hadiths pertaining the number of the emphatic sunan, whether they are only 10 or 12. And there is another hadith in which it talks about 4 rak'ahs before dhuhr and 4 rak'ahs after dhuhr, so which is even, will make it 14. Here is the point. This is talking about the 5 daily prayers, and Jumu'ah is unlike Dhuhr. So we do not say by analogy, since we pray Sunnah before Dhuhr, we should pray Sunnah before Jumu'ah. Because the original way of determining what to do and what not to do is strictly following the practice of the Prophet ﷺ. So the ahadith narrated that the Prophet ﷺ used not to pray any sunan, particular sunan before Jumu'ah, and he would rather pray after Jumu'ah. He would rather pray after Jumu'ah, either 2 in the masjid or 4 whenever 4 in the masjid or 2 whenever he would go home. So these are the sunan that is prescribed for Jumu'ah prayer versus Dhuhr, which is 2 or 4 before Dhuhr and 2 or 4 after Dhuhr. But when the Sahaba would arrive to the masjid, because the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to go to the masjid as early as possible, first hour, second hour, third hour, and so on, they would pray duha and nawafil as much as they want. You can just pray nawafil similar to the night prayer. But this is not a designated sunnah pertaining Jumu'ah or before the Jumu'ah prayer. Okay? Barakallah fiqh, Abdul Ma'id from the KSA. Brother Samir from United Arab Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I have only one question regarding suhoor. When we hear the Fajr Azan, should we stop eating?
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Hearing the Fajr Adhan is a declaration of the entrance of dawn. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Baqarah pertaining the time in which we should start fasting, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. So once we're certain it is Fajr already, we should stop eating and drinking. Unless if you had a bite already in your mouth or a cup on your mouth to drink, then you may finish that bite or that sip of drink that you're taking. Not to continue the whole meal and eat after Fajr. That invalidates fasting, of course. Barakallah fiqh. Fahd from the KSA yesterday asked about i'tikaf and who can do i'tikaf and whether he can do i'tikaf in the Grand Mosque of Mecca, Al-Masjid Al-Haram in Mecca. Number one, the Prophet ﷺ performed i'tikaf several times, and the purpose of doing i'tikaf was in order to seek Laylat al-Qadr. Why? Because al-i'tikaf is entering the masjid with the intention of staying in the masjid as a mean of worship. So al-i'tikaf, staying in the masjid with the intention of worship. Even if the person is not praying, just sitting or lying down, this is an act of worship to stay in the masjid. That's why it doesn't have a minimum time. It doesn't have minimum for its time. A person can enter and do i'tikaf for an hour or even less. Okay? We recommend, for instance, those who go to al-masjid to pray Isha and Taraweeh, or they do iftar in the masjid from Maghrib until Fajr. This is a perfect time to do i'tikaf, even if it is only for one night. The idea or why the Prophet ﷺ used to do i'tikaf was in order to seek Laylat al-Qadr. So when he would disown the whole commitment, the worldly commitment, and just spare the entire time, especially at night, in worship in the masjid, definitely you would witness Laylat al-Qadr. It is one of the last 10 nights, one of the odd nights of the last 10 nights. So when you enter the mu'takaf, and al-mu'takaf is the name of the masjid in which you perform i'tikaf. Some people are under the assumption that women should not do i'tikaf in the masjid. Women may do i'tikaf at home, in the rooms. And these two understandings are false. Number one, with regards to women performing i'tikaf in the masjid, the Prophet's wife, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and may Allah be pleased with them, have done i'tikaf during his life in the masjid, and he did not object to that. And after his death, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and throughout, the Muslim women used to do i'tikaf with the proper etiquette, of course. Okay? The second thing, the idea that women may do i'tikaf at their homes and they will receive the same reward of i'tikaf, is false for the following reason. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَاكِفُونَ. Don't you embrace your wives while you are in i'tikaf. Where at? فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ. That's why there is an agreement between the scholars that the i'tikaf should be done in the masjid. The disagreement between some of them is pertaining which masjid is valid for i'tikaf. Is it only the 3 sacred mosques in Mecca, in Medina, in Jerusalem? Is it only in Al-Masjid al-Nabawi and Al-Masjid al-Haram? Or it can be done in any other masjid? The right view is it can be offered and performed in any masjidun jami'. What does it mean, masjidun jami'? Because normally we call the masjid jami' as well. I'm going to the jami' or I'm going to the masjid. Jami' means that it has an imam and a mu'adhin, and it has a sit-up for the 5 daily prayers and Friday prayer. That they pray the Jumu'ah in congregation in this masjid. There are musallas. Some people in the basement, they make a little musalla or musayjid, a small tiny masjid, encompasses a few number of people for their convenience. At work, in their shops, in their companies, they have a musalla. This is only for the 5 daily prayers. There is a khilaf, this difference of opinions between the scholars whether you can do i'tikaf there or not. The right or the more right view is al-i'tikaf should be done in al-masjid al-jami', where it has an imam and a mu'adhin, 5 daily prayers are held in jama'ah, and Jumu'ah as well. Why? Because whenever you enter the mu'takaf in order to perform i'tikaf for the last 10 days or more, days and nights, you're not supposed to leave the mu'takaf except for a necessity. And imagine one has to leave the masjid to pray Jumu'ah in another masjid. You don't even leave the masjid in i'tikaf to visit a sick person or follow a funeral, because you are in a ibadah of i'tikaf. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Abu Safwan from Kuwait. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Question, my sheikh, is the first question is very short, and it's about the sa'i. I know we cannot perform tawaf without wudu, but being a diabetic, it is difficult for me to delay the call of nature, for long. So what about the sa'i? Can we perform without wudu, or wudu is also necessary? And my second question is regarding day before yesterday. You are talking about, you are explaining the Surah Nisa, the ayah, Allahu takun ardullahi wasiyatun fatuhajir fiha. So the question is, what will happen in the present time when the people, they cannot go from one place to another place without having visa? Even you cannot go to the birthplace of Islam without visa. So what will happen to these Burmese people who are being killed, and they have no shelter, no Islamic country doing anything, while the one person who used to ban niqab, hijab, and going to mosque, he is now sheltering in one of the Islamic countries. So what is the ruling for them? What will happen to these guys if they are innocent? And similarly, what is our role, like the people about the ربنا أخرجنا من هذه القرية الظالم أهلها. What is my role, your role? What we can do more than talking? Because we have no means to go. So this is my question. I know that this is a little political.
جزاك الله خيرا صفوان وبارك الله فيك. Okay. We answer Muhammad from the KSA. Abdul Salam from the United Arab Emirates. How to increase my iman and taqwa. Alhamdulillah, we did speak about that before in details, and there are, I believe, episodes speaking about the factors of increasing the iman, the faith or the iman in the heart of the believer. And there is a beautiful booklet compiled by Dr. Muhammad Salih al-Munajjid, may Allah preserve him. It has some factors of increasing the iman in the hearts, and this is a very wonderful book, and it's also in English. Perhaps it is published by Dar es Salaam publication, maybe, inshallah, and it's available also online for free. But to summarize that, al-imanu yazidu bil-ta'a wa yanqusu bil-ma'asiyah. Faith in the heart of the believers, it does increase and decrease. It increases due to obedience. It increases whenever you worship Allah. It increases whenever you abstain from committing a sin. For instance, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah the Almighty says, looking at the beauty of a woman is basically, this look is a poison arrow that the shaitan throws in the heart of the person who looks at her. من تركها مخافتي أبدلته بها حلاوة يجدها في قلبه. Whoever lowers his gaze, he has a chance to take a peek at a woman, maybe she's undressed entirely, or she's so beautiful, and he looks at her and he enjoys temporarily. But he says, you know what, Allah is watching me, I'm not going to look at her. Even if I have access to do that and no one is seeing me, but Allah is seeing me. So Allah promises, when you lower your gaze and you give up on this look which would give you a temporary joy and delight, Allah will replace that in your heart with a delight from Him. Halawatan. Yet you will always find this delight, especially when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So doing the good deeds, doing the ta'ah, praying nawafil, like in Ramadan, most people do have their iman increase, because we pray the fard in jama'ah, and we're very keen to pray the relating nawafil, we're very keen to pray tahajjud, and we're fasting during the day, we avoid much of sins as much as we can, while indulging into sins makes the person get sucked in the ma'asi more and more. He can even be addicted to them, and that decreases the iman. In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, and this hadith is collected by Imam al-Bukhari, may Allah have mercy on him, لا يزني الزاني أو المرء حين يزني وهو مؤمن ولا يسرق حين يسرق وهو مؤمن. Whenever, the hadith is a lengthy hadith, but the catch in the hadith is, whenever an adulterer or an adulteress commit adultery, they don't do that while they are believers. That indicates their iman will go very low, and they will be very weak in iman, to the extent that they will be negligent of the fact that they shouldn't be committing adultery. Rather, they should fulfill their desire in a lawful fashion. So when they don't do, and when they indulge into that sin, they don't have iman. Similarly, when the person commits theft or steals or insults or does whatever, so the iman goes up and down, and in order to keep your iman up, you have to strengthen your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray in jama'ah, increase making istighfar, recite plenty of the Quran, fast every once in a while, voluntary fasting, hang around the good company, stay away from the bad people. And now let's take a short break.
Can't do that because you do not know what to say to them sometimes. At least you raise up your hand and ask Allah, oh Allah, please give guidance to this brother of mine. The importance of following Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To follow our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam means you must understand his sunnah. Adinu Yusrun, Islam is a very easy religion, simple religion. So don't make religion difficult to yourself. I believe this hadith is very common to all of us. But the beauty part of this hadith, number one, it started by Umar al-Khattab saying, Sami'tu. Now again, I'd like to share with the brother and sister to understand the beauty of this saying of the companion.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome, dear viewers from around the world, to our exciting program titled Good Answer. I'm your host Malik, and I'm joined by the Imam of America, the founder of Guide Us TV. He needs no further introduction. I think you know who I'm talking about, Sheikh Yusuf Estes. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum, Malik. My name is Ayman, and I think a lot of people would like to know, a lot of non-Muslims would like to know who Prophet Muhammad was.
We worship the God that he worshipped. And we worship that God the way he worshipped. So we consider Islam to be a way or a deen.
Right.
Anywhere. Anywhere. And that had never been before. He said this is a gift, never came before, that me and my followers, we can make our salah, our connection, anywhere.
Hey, Sheikh, you're on the hot seat. I like my seat over here. I'm feeling comfortable. Because he asked you a tough question. He asked you a good question. Can you give him a good answer?
Islam my deen, Allah my Lord, His word Quran.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. I'd like to go back to Sister Yusra. She sounded a little depressed, and she's a little unhappy as well with the situation that she doesn't know whether she should be fasting or not. And she mentioned miscarriage. What determines whether the bleeding after the miscarriage is a regular bleeding or similar to the postpartum bleeding? What difference would it make? It will make all the difference. Because the Prophet ﷺ, as the sister said, she needs a proof from the Sunnah or the Quran. In the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ ordered the woman to stop praying and fasting أيام حيضتها, during the days and nights of her period, and also after delivering the baby, which is known as an-nifas. In the case of an-nifas or the postpartum bleeding, it may go up to 40 days or even beyond 40 days. And the right view is, if it goes beyond 40 days, then the woman would make ghusl and offer the prayer regularly, but she has to make wudu for each prayer as long as the bleeding is still there. Unless if after the 40 days it coincides her regular monthly period. And the postpartum bleeding may stop soon after delivery or a few days afterwards. So it doesn't have to be 40 days. That is all in the Sunnah. What about as-saqt or the miscarriage? The miscarriage will determine whether the bleeding after al-saqt or al-ijhad is treated like after delivery or not, based on the baby itself or the fetus. Has it been formed or not? Has it been shaped or not? So in a woman, I heard from Sister Yusra, she said 3 weeks, I'm not sure. Okay, what determines is, when you see the saqt or the fetus which have been miscarried, and it's obvious that the baby has been formed, has a head, arms, and legs. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, at least seeing one finger will determine that the baby has been formed. Then in this case, that bleeding will be treated as a nifas, which I mentioned earlier, as a postpartum bleeding. But if the fetus was just mere zygote, and or in the early stages of the formation. And when we look at it, it's like a piece of flesh. It doesn't have any form or shape. You cannot recognize whether it has a head or legs or arms, male or female. In this case, the bleeding afterward will be treated as istihada or irregular bleeding, which means it will not stop you from praying, from fasting, and from having your rights of contacting your spouse as well. But you will be required to perform tahara for each salah, as you already know, and as you said, you've been doing this. The part which I didn't get from you, whether the baby has been formed, shaped or not, and how long was the pregnancy before you had the miscarriage. You sounded unhappy, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring peace and tranquility to your heart. And if you need any further clarification, you can collect my number from the control, inshaAllah. And may Allah give you a better replacement of what you lost. Assalamu alaikum. Kawthar, United Arab Emirates, please.
Yes, I have two questions.
Now,
one of my relatives has been possessed by a jinn. She lives in the US. The local sheikh there told that someone has done black magic on her. And when asked, the jinn told who has done this magic on her, and the charm is hidden in the person's stomach. They gave her something to eat, and that went into the stomach. Okay, now the local sheikh has given some oils to drink, and so that she can vomit. Yeah?
I'm listening.
Yes, so she can vomit and it comes out from her stomach. But I think they are bound to some restrictions, and they cannot follow it freely there in the US. So but she reads the Ruqya, she reads the Surah Baqarah 3 times every day. And
Kawthar, may I ask you, I would like to ask you a few questions.
Yes.
And I would like for you to have that person contact us directly, either write to us by email if she doesn't want to contact us.
Yes.
Number one, what are the symptoms of that position? Number two,
she cannot, when she's standing in the prayer, she keeps moving her hand, she keeps moving her leg, or maybe she prays two rakats and just comes out like that. And when she's reading the Quran, suddenly her legs and hands shaking, and she just gets angry. She's not the kind of person who gets angry. She's a very calm person.
I feel sorry to hear that, Sister Kawthar, because not every person has some conditions or medical conditions. Right away we refer to the jinn and being possessed by the jinn. You know, when you said whenever she prays and whenever she reads Quran, if she's able to read Quran and she's able to read Quran freely, then she's not possessed. If she can read Surah Al-Baqarah fully, then she's not possessed by the jinn. And please, whenever somebody has some medical issues, visit a doctor first to determine whether you have a physiological problem or a physical problem before visiting a sheikh. And the matter of the ruqya, you can do it for yourself and any person in your family, husband for instance, or a grown-up son or daughter can recite the ruqya on you. And keep playing Surah Al-Baqarah at home. I don't think these are enough symptoms to determine that the person is being possessed, especially when you said that she does read the Quran and she prays. This is the first question. I don't know if you're still on the line. Okay? Then the second question, who determines whether the person is being possessed or not? I personally do not determine that. There are certain scholars who are specialized in that, in asking the patient certain questions and reciting certain ayat and see the reaction of the person. Sometimes the person who's been possessed by the jinn will speak in a different tongue. A female will sound like a male and will speak very ununderstood language sometimes. A different person is speaking on her tongue, whether a male or a female jinn, and so on.
What you're telling me.
Okay, so this is not simply... Why am I saying this? Because there are a lot of people who have taken this as a job and a source of income. Any person who has headache, say you've been possessed by the jinn. any person is yawning, oh, there is a jinn on you and there is something in your stomach. How could a magical spell be in her stomach? I don't understand that somebody cut open her stomach through surgery and placed a magical spell on her that she needs to take some oil to throw it up. I don't know about all of that. And I believe truly that we need to put together a few episodes, even seek the help of some Arabic scholars in this field. And even though I was trying to avoid this entirely, because it may propagate this, the exorcism and so on. But just to show you, brothers and sisters, not every person is complaining from headache or migraine or whatever before taking the headache medication, or before visiting the physician. Right away, you go to the mullah and the mullah will say, you've been possessed by the jinn. That's his business. So, once again, I'm not saying that she's not being possessed, but these are not enough signs to determine whether she's being possessed or not. Let her recite Surah Al-Baqarah fully from now until the end of Ramadan every day, whenever she wakes up. And if she can do that, then she doesn't have any problem, inshaAllah, and hopefully her pain will go away. Barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Muhammad from Egypt.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Naam.
Yeah, Sheikh, I have 3 questions, please.
Please.
Yeah, at the beginning of Ramadan when I was praying...
Would you please raise your voice a little bit? I can barely hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah?
Can you hear me now, sir?
Still, it's very, very low.
Hello?
Are you fasting?
No, yeah, I am, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so try a little better.
So that explains it, I guess.
Okay. Now you woke up. Okay, the 3 questions, please.
Yeah, at the beginning of Ramadan when I was praying the Taraweeh prayer, I was able to complete the Taraweeh, yani the whole 2 hours that I was praying. But from yesterday, I started feeling dizzy after praying like for an hour or an hour and a half. So I don't know what to do to prevent this. That's my first question.
Okay.
And my second question is, when you're in the bathroom and maybe you heard the adhan or the Prophet's name being called or something, are you supposed to say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or answer to the adhan, or you're supposed to keep quiet? And what if you do it not knowingly?
You say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam at what point? Okay, please try again, Muhammad. We didn't even get your second question. Umar from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum, ya Umar. And Umar's call too was cut off. We already have enough questions to answer, inshallah, by the time you... okay. Sister Aya from Egypt. She says, I find it difficult to understand the Quran. Should I simply read it in English? I'm sure this is just the summary for question, because she said that during Ramadan she intended to read the entire Quran and she reads it in Latin letters and so on. Nowadays, alhamdulillah, there is an audio Quran with a beautiful reciter such as Sheikh Mahmoud Khalil al-Husari, may Allah have mercy on him, and others, followed by the meaning of these verses. So this is one of your best options. If you listen to the ayah and then listen to its meaning, this is perfectly fine. Another option is there are the educational Quran audio as well. You listen to the ayah and pause whenever you want to, repeat it over and it gives you time to allow you to repeat. And this is the easiest way to learn how to read. Of course, this is if you already know the alphabet and so on. If you don't, soon after Ramadan, insha'Allah Azza Jal, you may start learning the alphabet, the alif ba, and with the vowels and so on. And I understand that you said you're calling from Egypt. This is like a piece of cake. You can have a private tutor for a fraction of dollars or whatever a day, and in no time, in a couple months, you'll be able to read. Okay? There is a difference between being able to read and understand. Understanding, I advised you earlier, after you read, you listen to the explanation of the ayah. The easiest form of understanding the text of each ayah is the Nabil Quran, the meaning of the English meaning of the ayat by Dr. Muhammad Muhsin Khan, and it is adopted by King Fahd Complex of Printing the Quran in Medina. And also the abridged tafsir of Ibn Kathir that is published by Dar es Salaam publication. I pray for these guys because they've made it so easy for hundreds of millions of people, English speakers, that they can learn the tafsir and read finally the tafsir, and the greatest tafsir of Ibn Kathir. May Allah have mercy on him. And they eliminated the weak and the fabricated stories or the Israelites, so it's wonderful. 10 volumes. They've made it simply available also on a software, on a disk, and it's also available online for free. So may Allah bless them for that. So you have all the means to learn how to read Quran and enjoy it. Listening to the Quran too, Sister Ayah, is a great act of worship. And the Prophet ﷺ used to ask his companions to recite the Quran upon him. And in Ramadan, Jibreel ﷺ would come to the Prophet ﷺ, and they both would listen to each other. Jibreel would read and the Prophet will be listening. Then the Prophet would read and Jibreel would be listening, and so on. So listening to the Quran is a great act of worship. Whether you're driving, doing the housework, in the kitchen, here or there, you play it and you listen to it. But the best way to listen to it is when you designate some time, you sit down, you listen to the ayah, and you follow it by listening to the meanings. That too is available, and this is a great achievement. Alhamdulillah, shukrullah. Muhammad from the KSA says he works in a European embassy, which requires me to engage in parties where there is mixing and drinking. In KSA, even in European embassies in Saudi, there are drinking in these embassies. That's a serious problem, because I don't think they allow drinking in Saudi. I know that some people smuggle that, but the penalty for that is very severe, whether for drugs, narcotics, or alcohol. So I cannot really comprehend this, unless if you are currently in Saudi and working perhaps in a European embassy somewhere. Anyway, whether in Saudi or Mecca or in Washington DC, it is not permissible for a Muslim to sit down on a table where khamr is being served, or attend a party where khamr is being served, even if this is your business. That is not permissible. I wish we have time to explain a few ayat in this regard, but for instance in Surah An-Nisa in ayah number 140, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَدْ نَزَّلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الْكِتَابِ أَنْ إِذَا سَمِعْتُمْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ يُكْفَرُ بِهَا وَيُسْتَهْزَأُ بِهَا فَلَا تَقْعُدُوا مَعَهُمْ حَتَّى يَخُوضُوا فِي حَدِيثٍ غَيْرِ إِنَّكُمْ إِذًا مِثْلُهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed upon us that whenever people are sitting and involved in any sort of haram, whether marking the Quran or an act of disbelief or drinking or gambling, why are you sitting with them? Why are you hanging around with them? What if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends His punishment upon them and takes you all? Some of my friends say that we are having a conference in Las Vegas. I said, don't attend it. Oh, but it's free, I don't have to pay for it. I know. These casinos and hotels, they offer free rooms and free lodging just to go there so that you can see. And maybe you get sucked in, you end up playing, you end up engaged in adultery or whatever. If this place, Allah decides to punish its people because of the major sins that are involved in this place or that place which is famous of that, and you happen to be there, what's your excuse? Why have you been there? And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, while crossing on the way of Tabuk to the homes of Thamud, he ordered them to rush and lower their heads out of humility, because they said, this is a place which Allah has punished, and I'm afraid that Allah is going to send His punishment once again upon them. So hurry. When you pass by the homes of the wrongdoers, do not hang around. Do not stay there for long. So sitting with people while drinking is not permissible. And the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فلا يجلس على مائدة تدار عليها الخمر. Whosoever believes in Allah and in the last day, let him not sit on the same table where khamr or wine, liquor, beer or whatever is been served. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us what's best. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم, and see you tomorrow inshallah.
Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest.